A very good evening to you. Welcome to another exciting edition of Big Talk, a program where we highlight political issues concerning Nigeria and how to move Nigeria forward. My name is Ubong Osoro, and I'm your host on the program tonight, as we will be talking to a political scientist, a researcher, a lecturer, as concerning 2027 politics. What are the optics and options available for Nigeria at this time? All of this will be done when we're back from this break. Let's go for a short break, and when we're back in a minute, we'll be looking at 2027 politics, the option available for Nigerians at this time. We'll be right back. As Nigeria moves closer to the 2027 general elections, the political temperature is beginning to rise. Campaign promises are now being measured on the scale of performance. Conversations are shifting from just campaign to what has the ruling party really done. And some political actors are already strategizing on how to take power in 2027. There's also economic pressure, security challenges, and demands for more inclusivity in governance. Joining us to help make sense of our discussion tonight, we have Dr. Abdulrazak Ibrahim, who is a political scientist and a lecturer at NEL University Department of Political Science. Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us tonight as we look at 2027 politics, the optics and options available for Nigeria at this time. Thank you so much for joining us live in our Abuja studios.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the ruling APC. They've been in power since 2023, at least Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. Do you think that the government is popular?
Yes, thank you for having me. Let's put it into proper perspective. The election that brought the president into power is heavily and highly contested, that later resolved into litigation. And after the litigation, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was declared as the winner of the election from the Supreme Court. However, the waves of public opinion that follow suit shows that there were no massive jubilation when the court's declaration was made, but in principle, he was the most popular candidate because he won an election. So we want to believe, if we are going by principles of even though the turnout of the election was relatively low, so we cannot say that has really determine the yearnings of the majority of the Nigerians, because a lot of Nigeria has reservation for the outcome of the election. So that makes the turnout to be pretty low. But having said that, going by the principles of election, he remains the popular candidate.
All right, so Nigeria's electoral system, 1999, we've tested it time and time again. In 1999, we went to the polls. In 2004, we went to the polls. In 2007, we went to the polls. In 2011, I remember 2015, right, and 2019, 2023, and by God's grace, if we get to 2027, we'll go to the polls again. We'll be testing this electoral system, at least since the return to democracy. As a political scientist, have we improved our electoral system? Have our democracy become better?
Relatively, yes. Our democracy have become relatively better in terms of the policy options that was adopted by, starting from the Yar'Adua administration, because the election that brought late President Yar'Adua into power was equally challenged by the majority, and he attested to the fact that the election was not absolutely free and fair. As such, there are laudable reforms that follows. And each administration that follows try to bring in one electoral reform or the other, down to the registration, the cards, to the beavers, and that shows that there is genuine intention to improve the electoral system and act of electioneering issues in Nigeria. Having said that, this really put trust and faith in the mind of the people of Nigeria. That, I will say, is a question that is begging for an answer. Because statistics shows that our election is still mild. I think only in the recent last election in Anambra that the turnout, the voting turnout was relatively about 20%. That shows that in a country of over 200 million people, if just 20% of those that are eligible and that are being registered are turning out to vote in their leaders, it shows they have some level of reservation, because if truly they are convinced that their vote will count absolutely, I think majority want to do that. However, there is a little twist during the last election, because you see one of the ethnic group that the turnout is always low, and some religious organizations and religious homes make it a kind of mandatory for their members to get their PVC and then encourage and motivate people to get their PVC. And again, the Gen Z, through the technology, they were able to mobilize themselves for this last election, and you could see the twist and the wave of the nature of election, most especially in the stronghold of the elected president that he didn't win. That shows there is some level of security in terms of the electoral outcome. There's some level of the electoral system and process is guaranteeing that, yes, votes really count to a greater extent.
All right, so one of the things that has stood out for me as a person is that Nigeria has grown to a place where we have a ruling party lose an election. Remember in 2015, when Goodluck Jonathan, then the ruling president, called Muhammadu Buhari, God bless his soul, and congratulated him for winning that election. At that time, we didn't think that it was possible for the ruling party to lose election, because they had all the machinery, the government had, the power and all of that. But they lost the election as announced, and the president conceded defeat. And people say that's like showing that democracy is gearing towards maturity. And there's also been mention of the fact that we don't really have as much political or as many political killings per se as it was 20, 15 years ago. Are those signs, and maybe you want to add more signs, showing that our democracy is maturing at this point?
I think relatively there is consistent improvement in our electoral reforms and then the maturity. However, I want us to critically examine the behavior and the nature of President Goodluck, the then president himself. He's an academic like me before moving into the political arena, and he made one critical statement that his coming into power does not worth the blood of any Nigerian. If you know the power that is embodied in presidency, you know that if you have chosen to remain steadfast in power, that could have been very difficult for any other opposition party to challenge his position as at that time. But one is not surprised because when he was deputy governor in Bayelsa State, he equally showcased the same behavior. He was not really ambitious to overthrow his principle. So it shows that his nature, he's a calm person that equally believes in the principles of democracy. And that might have influenced his decision and his action and his inaction that led to the congratulatory message that was then forwarded to the late President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory. So if you want to put it this way, you can say his nature really affected because we've had across African continent from Gambia to other states that the presidents want to be a sit-tight president. Even after losing an election, they still want to remain at all costs. But the former president chose to live peacefully, and that has made him to get this global accolade. He's now an ambassador that preaches the principle of democracy because he is one that have equally showcased that yes, it is a game that the winners are supposed to be congratulated, and then you should acknowledge because tomorrow maybe he could equally come back again. So if you believe in the principles that brought you into power, there is no need for you to destroy it when you cannot gain that position through that same system.
All right, so still stay on the 2023 general elections. We saw, like you mentioned, something quite different from what we've been seeing. The younger Nigerians mobilizing resources, being interested in voting. In fact, where I covered the elections, we had persons who had WhatsApp group for mobilization as to how they would get to the places. People even brought food to share as to how they were voting. And maybe they were disappointed in a way as to how the outcome of the elections came. I do think it's going to be affecting the optics of the 2027 general elections. If they feel that we came out and were not heard, really it affects them coming out or mobilizing resources or mobilizing strategies as we saw at that time going forward?
Relatively, this could affect the outcome. However, some of the research that was conducted by our student shows that people were more active on the social media than being present on the electoral day. So that shows the departure between social media campaigns and support and the real turnout on that election day. You know, in some states, there were songs of war, there were mobilization, even some people were using dogs to scare people away. And being that some of our elections have been marred with electoral violence, some of these young people, under their parents' advice, chose to remain back home and watch how the election and electioneering games unfold. So this might have been one of the major problems that equally affected the outcome of the election. But going further, I want to believe, because you know the momentum that followed, it is just the first outing of one of the candidate, and you could see the crowd that has moved. If they are going to consolidate on this, there's possibility that yes, they'll be able to make a change.
Right. So we want to look at the 2027 elections and options that are available for Nigeria. I'll start with asking, what are the options available at this moment?
2027, there is a pivotal movement that is hitting the polity of Nigeria at the moment. You can see political campaigns that have been disguised because there are posters of the ruling parties, the president's posters across the cities, in Nigeria. This is a disguised campaign that I think they are just trying to sell their candidate before the electoral pronunciation of campaign period. So, the most important thing that I think is going to determine or influence the way and the wave of the 2027 elections is going to be hinged on economic performance, security issues, employment, and the candidacy that they are going to be presenting. First and foremost, from the wave of things that we are seeing, we can see that the president his body language is tilting, most especially the body, if we say the body language of his supporters is showing that he is preparing and laying down the road that will lead to his re-election. But Nigerians are more sensitive to what they are feeling right now, from economic indices, as he promised that he's going to improve at least 7% on economic growth in when he assumed the position of presidency. We are not feeling that now. Some of the statistics that they are rolling out or that are unfolding by the statisticians of Nigeria is not really capturing the reality on ground. They are mere statistics that are not reflecting in the market. You can see frustration on the faces of Nigerians. You can see the high level of insecurity because homeland security is linked to food security and security of life. When people are desperate, when they are hungry, they become easy prey to those that want to influence them to take into what will I call it, activities that will destroy and then mar the image of our country. So if we are going by this, that shows that the president needs to tighten his belt if truly he's interested in coming for re-election. The second thing, again, that I have noticed is that the opposition parties are not showing any serious level of uniting and coming with a strong front that will be able to challenge the incumbency. Most of the political gladiators that spread across these strong political parties are equally showing their personal interest. If they are really serious, I think they will need to form a coalition and bring a formidable candidate that will be able to challenge the the president.
Before I allow you, go ahead as you talk about some of the things that you are seeing in your research and all of that. There are some names that are thrown in the ring. So I'd just like that we maybe just do an analysis of some of the names. You've talked about President Bola Tinubu, fantastic. But we have former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is no stranger to politics of winning. Of course, to the returning Democrats, he was on a joint ticket, having won Adamawa governorship. Ticket was picked by OBJ to run as vice president, and he did that. Even when he had challenges in office, stayed put, finished his tenure and all of that, moved on. And we've seen him pick the tickets as a presidential candidate from aspirant to being candidate of major political party like the PDP in 2019 and in 2023. We've seen him contest in 2007. His name is on the picture. I like that you talk about Alhaji Atiku Abubakar as one of the factors that may be influencing our elections in 2027.
Yes. If you look at the history of Atiku Abubakar in terms of the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, you know that he held a very big influence in terms of politics. They were one of the founding fathers of the PDP. They have a movement, I think, is it the G, something they call it, I can't really remember. And he has been under the tutelage of the former late Shehu Yaradua. So this is a formidable force and movement in terms of political gimmicks. Now, again, having been under the administration of the former president Olusegun Obasanjo, that has equally increased his influence, because definitely he has some of his supporters, his boys that he must have assisted in gaining some of the positions, and this has placed him as one of the formidable candidates that could pull weight in terms of election. But if you look at the political landscape of Nigeria, there is this clamor that the power sharing formula have been rotating within a particular region. And the eastern region, which are equally stakeholders in the Nigerian nation, is equally clamoring to taste this position, because Nigeria is for all of us. And this might affect the level of acceptance of the candidacy of Atiku Abubakar, because he has been tested, and this is the second or third time that he has been contesting, and he has been losing to different platforms. So the last election shows that there is a wave among the youths, and then there is this belief in the candidacy of one of the candidates from the East, and Peter Obi, which shows that yes, the opposition have to do their homework and bring somebody that will be sellable, if I can use that word, across Nigeria. And remember, there is equally this clamor about the Muslim ticket, and they have to sit down and rethink, because unfortunately, Nigerian political landscape and electioneering is shaped or revolved around ethnicity and religion, because of the fear and the suspicion between these nations. Because in civilized countries, you don't need that as a yardstick, because there are a lot of things that unite us together. Hunger, issue of security, and then the financial, or what like the market prices, because we all use the same market, infrastructural decay. All of these are challenges that we all face. So if we can get it right, where a leader can come, irrespective of his religion and his ethnicity, and you can see the face of Abuja. Even if you are not in tune with the minister of Abuja, you can feel his presence, because you can see the laudable projects that is ongoing. So if you can get a leader that can guarantee, you don't need, you'll be forced to, even if you don't agree with his ideologies, but the common goods, because the indices that you use in measuring development and the success is economic indices, good roads, hospitals, etc., infrastructures. And if you can guarantee employment, so any leader that can do this, I can assure you that that will change the mindset of the people.
Right. So let's still stay with Peter Obi, because that's the next name I wanted to mention. And he got 6 million votes, first time contesting for a president. He's been vice under Atiku in 2019. They weren't able to clinch, but 6 million votes. And we saw in some states, 95%, like Anambra, 95% of voters that came out voted in one direction. And some persons say that is not good for our unity as a country because it was more like a regional kind of thing. But we saw it also in Lagos, Southwest, right? We saw it in Osun State.
In Abuja.
Yeah, oh, in Abuja.
I think.
Yeah, and all of that, right? So one majorly is based, the South is cleared, in those places, apart from places like Imo, where the president got 25% and all of that. But majorly 90%, 95 and thereabout, and got some places in the south and even in the north central, penetrated like Abuja, like Kogi, even though it didn't win, but some very significant showing in all of that. But some persons are saying that he's not been able to hold on to that as a way of expanding his base, especially in the far north, places like Adamawa, places like Bauchi, and those places, he's not been able to galvanize support in these 2 years. That was maybe the work he would have been doing, and he's not done that effectively. I'd like to hear from you.
Yes, if you look at it critically, there are build-ups to this that makes him not to be able to capture some of these regions that have not the eastern part of Nigeria. One of them is his previous actions when he was governor. And there is one thing about history, it will always come back at you. So the North were equally suspicious, and they have this dissent about his capability and ability and what his intention might be when he becomes the president. So these have made a lot of people from that region to have reservation for his candidacy. And again, there is this political distortion under the party that he contested. If you notice, immediately after the election, then there is this rancor between the party.
Factional,
yes, factional, and then that is distracting energies that are supposed to be channeled toward capturing the minds of the other regions, are now pulled and directed toward solving the internal rancors. So this, I think, might have affected his image. It might have affected his level of acceptance in this region. However, it is not late for him. If you have a very good political advisor, there is still time, but each day you should know that you are moving closer to election. And with the fact that even the opposition parties are not showing any level of seriousness, because the defections from all these parties is showing that they are not really pulling the right weight which they needed to pull to be able to capture and win and let people see the direction that they are going. So if they can do this, and if Mr. Peter Obi could equally key into this, I want to believe that he's going to be able to pull weight.
All right, so I'm talking about pulling weights, Peter Obi, and pulling weights. There's a discussion about former President Goodluck Jonathan throwing his hat into the ring. And a lot of persons have mentioned that one of the things that stand out for Jonathan is the fact that he does one term, and power goes back to the north, the rotation stand. I like that you talk about two questions now. The political configuration of Nigeria, where we constantly have this rotation between the north and the south. Is it political balancing? Is it good for nation building on one end, and on the other side, Goodluck Jonathan now? Should he be, advisors are trying to tell him, come into the region, we'll support you. should he be encouraged to come, and do you see him standing a better chance of having support going into the race?
I think it's a two-way thing, because the momentum that he pulled recently, there are some commentators that say that he's having some external backing, that wants him to come in. And
external, like foreign influence?
Yes, foreign influence that wants him to come back, because there is these changes that we are noticing within countries that Nigeria is aligning with, and some believe that is equally from the United States of America, and with the way he behaved after the last election, during his that brought President Muhammadu Buhari into power, it shows that he is truly a Democrat. And in comparison with his own tenure and those of other presidents that came in after him, they've been able to make some comparative analysis that shows that he was relatively a better option. During the campaign era that led to his removal from office, there were a lot of propaganda. A lot of propaganda that is hinged across the economic and mostly security issues. You know, not coming from North and not being a Muslim equally affected his image in tackling insecurity in that region.
Right.
There are a lot of people that were challenging. Oh, he wants to kill your brother, he wants to destroy this. However, now they have been able to realize that, look, the machineries, he brought in machineries that were working, it was challenged. They were thinking, okay, there are some people that have sympathy for those terrorist organizations and those insurgencies that were terrorizing the whole of Nigeria. And then you could see that, and they used that to truncate his good intention in fighting the insecurity in that region. After leaving the office, they've now been able to make some comparative analysis. Issues that he once mentioned that they called, that led to protests, are still issues that have been implemented. One of it is the removal of subsidy.
Right.
When he mentioned that subsidy is killing our economy, that is just some cabals that are really benefiting. If I'm not mistaken, I think even the incumbent president was among those that led if that was among the people that protested on the street of Nigeria. But his own was declared on the very first day without listening and to the stakeholders to get advice, because this is a national issue that should not just be an emergency issue that you just plunge people in. Are Nigerians better off now? I think the answer is more obvious than what will come out of my mouth. So, if you look through this, these are some of the things that have made him, because I have read when some people brought in some analysis of the prices of goods, his attitude to people, the way he handled things, and then they've been able to realize that relatively he is a Democrat. And that is one of those things that is helping to push his candidacy forward.
And you think he stands a better chance?
Nigerians will be able to decide if he chooses to come out for the, what is it called? But the main thing is that there is dissent across Nigeria. Everybody is feeling the heat. And some are saying that the heat will be better felt or more felt in January with the new tax reforms. It's like you are giving with your right hand and then you are taking it back with your left hand. Even if you are trying to make transfers, you can see whether the transfer goes or not. There are deductions. There are more of deductions. Then Nigeria cannot equally fund her budget with the increment from the subsidy removal. I think we have close to 800% increment in revenue generation from the subsidy money. Yet, we can't really feel the impact.
Right, so let's talk about the economics for a second. Today we saw PENCOM, right? We saw PENCOM, stating as Nigeria has 18 trillion in pension assets lying fallow. But when you take a deeper look, you see that 65% of revenue this year, that's a data from one of the Nigerian statistics, 65% of our budget this year, of our revenue this year went into debt servicing and salaries, 65%. And over 105% of our borrowing money also went into debt servicing. It's better because some last 3 years it was 70-something, 75, 74. We're already hitting the glass ceiling as to debt servicing and salaries. So leaves little or no room for investment. So I think the presidency will be glad to show that to Nigeria and say, we're at 75, getting to 80, we are now at 65 as regards debt servicing, because it was already taking over our entire budgets. And when you look at there are issues as to how expensive our politics is, civil servants, corruption. There's a lot of issues, but there's a fundamental issue that there's little or no room left for investments, because when you do that much as to salaries and debt servicing, what now is left for capital projects? So recurrent and overhead takes a lot, and capital projects. So, but let's talk about this in that lens that we had a fundamental problem, which was very clear. Good luck, Jonathan tried to shout it, but people said, no, let's just play with it. Do you think subsidy at the time, because all of the presidential candidates in 2023 talked about it. Peter Obi talked about removing subsidy, at least the major ones. Atiku Abubakar, came second, talked about removing subsidy. And Bola Tinubu will say, okay, let's do it this time. Do you think that removing subsidy, looking at the economic side of it, wasn't worth it? And the prices are coming down now. Dangote the other day talked about, just 2 days ago, talked about reducing the price. I just like that we have the conversation now.
Yes. All the candidates and the past presidents or leaders of Nigeria believe that subsidy is actually fueling the bank accounts of some cabals, most especially those that are within the corridor of oil business. However, the timing matters, because if you want to remove subsidy, which is one of the major areas that all Nigerians benefit from, because it trickles down on the prices of goods, transportation, hospital. It has this ripple effect on all prices and investment. Yes, if you want to remove subsidy, you need to have some palliative and alternative measures that will cushion the hardship that Nigerians are presently feeling now. You could have 6 or 1 year plan. Transportation, as a student in Istanbul, we pay half of the price for transportation. Then that same thing is applicable to public utilities like hospitals, like other things that have to do, because the rich man will not use the public buses, they hardly use them. So if you know you are rich, then you could go buy your car. Then you could equally have some measures like the food bank, that you collect the food from the bank, from the farmers, and then you sell out in little quantity. I think Lagos State is having a replicate of something like that. You use your card, and then there's the amount of... So, because even the most advanced capitalist society, they have social welfare alternative system that they use in the hardship that will follow suit. There is linkage between economic challenges and insecurity and homeland insecurity. It affects every facet of our land.
Right. So, Doctor, because we're running out of time, and I still have 3 more names as we look at 2027. And one of the names is former River State Governor and former Minister of Transportation, Rotimi Amaechi, who came second in that APC convention, right, in 2023. So he may be running again, and his name is being thrown up. And some people say he has wide acceptance in the north. Rotimi Amaechi.
Relatively, from my own observation, the acceptance he has is not really in the north. Rather, he has the pattern of the late President Muhammadu Buhari. There are people that believe that he was his favorite candidate during that.
I thought it was Lawal.
Well, the clips, even during the primaries, you could see the body language, and when there was one that they captured the family of, when they called Amaechi, that they were applauding him. That's to show you, because relatively maybe the president want a power shift also to maybe the south-south or the southeast. So, but for this popular acceptance, I think he is not as popular as most people believe, because that ought to have showcased itself, because there is this mass support that was thrown behind the candidacy of President Ahmed Tinubu during the campaign. That shows that, yes, if he were to be the most popular, then he could have been able to maybe clinch the candidacy. And having said that, if you look at what led to his power dynamics and the changes in his grip in his home state, he could not even secure his home state, because you have to look at their background and see where you are coming from.
So if you can't win at home,
so
it becomes difficult to win outside.
But
we saw President Bola Tinubu, he didn't win in Lagos, but he won outside. He didn't win in Osun State, where he has close ties. But Doctor, now we are running out of time, but I like that we have this discussion. There are some political parties that some Nigerians are looking up to as the parties that, if there should be a challenge, these are the parties that will challenge. We have the PDP on one end, and going through serious problems. Abdurrahman saying, I'm the chairman. Kabiru Turaki, I'm the chairman. Problems. We have a Labour Party, Nanadi Usman, and saying, I'm chairman. Julius Abure, I'm chairman. Problem. These are our core opposition parties. And we have a new party now, the ADC, with former Senate President David Mark. But there's still also another person saying, I'm the chairman of the ADC, right? We don't know where that leads to. It seems that all Nigerian opposition parties are having issues. But let's talk about the opposition. Do you think they can come together and challenge the APC in 2027?
I think it is possible, most especially if they have this sincerity of purpose. We've seen that play out during the 2023 election, the formation of APC in itself, when the political parties, because there's this clamor that they don't have enough governors in control, and that was the same scenario that played out during 2023. And yet, President Muhammadu Buhari was able to not 2023,
2014
to win the election. So if they will leave their personal interests behind them and then focus on Nigeria first and bring in, because you see, there is this issue of listening to public opinion. You can do that through some research, and then you'll be able to see and feel the pulse of the masses and the candidates that they will prefer based on their previous antecedent. Then all of them could rally around him and pull support for that candidate. And if they could do that and they are sincere about it, I think they'll be able to make a very fantastic move in the next coming election.
Right, but some Nigerians are asking, the move they want to make, is it because they're falling out of power? Or is it because they're bringing any reasonable change? Because most of these persons, at least the prominent names, have been around power. Aregbesola was former Minister of Interior, Amaechi, former Minister of Transportation, Atiku Abubakar, Vice President for 11 years. All of them has been around power. So those are questions Nigerians are asking. Are they really concerned about changing the narrative? Is there anything different? Like the APC said, when the campaign on change, we are going to change, corruption will be gone, economy will be fixed, and security. I still remember that campaign. Yeah. Have they done different? Those are questions Nigerians are still answering. So do you think they have anything different or position to offer?
Unfortunately, Nigerian politics is hinged on elite system. The elite still, you can see the latest appointment that was made is still reshuffling or recycling of the ambassadorial, most of them. So the Nigerian, because if you bring in a new face now that is not known, there's possibility that you might find it difficult to to get massive support from him. But if they look deep down critically, I'm sure they'll be able to bring, it could be a technocrat that is now a politician within them, that he can have something to showcase, and which will, many Nigerians will believe that, okay, this might be a better option than what they are having now. So if they look inward critically without their selfish interests, I believe they'll be able to bring a better candidate that most Nigerians will want to key in to support.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abdulrazak. This is where we have to end the show. We've been talking to Dr. Abdulrazak Salihu on the topic 2027 politics, optics, and options available for Nigerians. Doctor is a lecturer in the Department of Political Science at Nile University, where he lectures students on politics. Thank you so much, Doctor, for speaking to us tonight.
Thank you once again for having me.
All right, thank you. And let's look forward to more conversation, even as we look forward to 2027. All right, so in anticipation, Nigeria is our country, and we must carry our civic responsibility as responsible citizens to protect our democracy, love our country for love of country, right? We must remember that this country belongs to all of us and do our best to make sure Nigeria gets better. My name is Ubong Osoro in Abuja, and I'm saying bye for now.